Imagine, if you will, that there is no war. At least not the kind of war we are seeing now. But if tomorrow all of the conflict stopped and the threat of conflict stopped, where would gold and silver prices be? We'll find out in this video as we explore. Yeah, gold and silver. Imagine what the prices of gold and silver would be if there was no invasion of Ukraine, or if they pulled out right now, and if Hamas ceased any operations and Israel pulled out of Gaza and everything just went right back to normal. Now, those are unrealistic scenarios, obviously. That's not the kind of world we live in. But nonetheless, if that were to happen tomorrow, what would the markets do? How would they react, specifically gold and silver? I do think there probably would be some shock to the system if we heard the news, a double whammy of, well, hey, Russia troops are pulling out and they're going back home from Ukraine. And Hamas stops and wants to talk peace, and Israel pulls out and says, we're not going to go in to Gaza. And to top that off, let's say China says, we don't have eyes on Taiwan. We're not going to do that. We see intelligence and data that leads to the possibility that they're not going to invade Taiwan. What kind of world would that look like in terms of the markets? Well, it's a good question, and it'd be very interesting to see exactly what would be. You know, oftentimes for situations like that, we just need to look at recent history to be a guide as to what would happen to gold and silver prices. How much are geopolitics, how much do they play a role in the movement of gold and silver prices? I make the argument that they do make a pretty substantial role and impact on the price of gold and silver. Why? Well, because, look what we've seen, the uncertainty that surrounds this type of activity. Any kind of attack on a nation, even after it builds up and there's a thought that it's going to occur, well, the markets move because of the uncertainty that surrounds these conflicts, that they could widen, that they could potentially affect overall markets, which could in turn affect the dollar and in turn affect gold and silver prices. And we've seen that happen multiple times throughout history, and even in recent history, even just the threat of an attack and what have you. But what about if it was to dramatically move in the opposite direction? Because what occurs? Well, you have the buildup of troops, and we kind of knew it was coming with Russia and Ukraine. There was intelligence and obvious buildup of a lot of equipment along the border there, and now we have a buildup of a lot of equipment and people outside of Gaza, and there's going to be an invasion there. Really, the war has already started. They're pounding them hard. But nonetheless, that kind of thing is something that moves the markets. And so to see it move in the opposite direction, well, that could be just as shocking. And I think that likely, we could see the precious metal prices maybe drop, at least to some extent. I won't say they would crash by any stretch, and I'm going to tell you why later in the video, but I do think we could see them drop in the immediate aftermath of such activities. But if history is a guide, well, we look and see what were gold and silver prices doing before these two conflicts broke out. Well, silver, the average closing price of silver the year before the invasion of Ukraine was in 2021 was at $25.14. It closed out the year just kind of above where it is now. And that is around $23.35. And so it's pretty remarkable, pretty amazing to see that, just from 1 year, we are 1 year prior to these invasions, we are seeing now, we saw the gold and silver was up. Silver was up. Of course, we had a lot of going on in 2021 that led to the price move up, and some of it I think had to do with the Wall Street silver movement, or the silver squeeze movement, at least at the very beginning of that, which could have affected because the prices did get up to close to $30 an ounce for a brief amount of time, which I think pulled that average up. So you take that away, well, more than likely you're going to have silver resting about kind of where it is now, which frustrates many people, feeling like that silver should be a lot higher than where it is now, especially given the geopolitical situation that we have on our hands now. Why is it not reacting to that? Well, it is. It has reacted to that because the prices were actually much lower for myriad different reasons, economically. And so that is a factor that we have to look into. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that momentarily. Gold. What happened to gold? Well, in 2021, gold was actually much lower on average. The average closing price was just under $1,800. Now, again, 2021, we did see gold spike up. And so it's been hovering around some of the prices where it is now. But gold right now is just under $2,000 an ounce. And I think a lot of that is based off of the geopolitical situation that is on hand. So I think we could see the metals pull back temporarily. That's right. It wouldn't take long for them to recover some of their losses if both these nations pulled out and there was no wars happening and no threat of another war coming down the pike. I still think that they would recover, because the world, if it's not in a world of hurt in terms of its geopolitical uncertainty and wars, it's in a world of hurt based off of the quantitative easing, modern monetary theories that have been practiced throughout the entire first world. And I think we could see the prices climb up for these metals and to at least where they're at right now. So I think it would be a short-lived dip in the price of gold and silver if that were to occur. But that's just it. Geopolitical uncertainty is something that it wears out fairly quickly once the certainty of conflict hits. And unless it has a major impact on oil or any other commodity that's going to have an effect on other currencies and especially the dollar, well, more likely you're going to see gold and silver stabilize fairly quickly after we get entrenched, pun intended, into a war footing, a war situation, and a type of war that certainly could last a while. We've seen that in the past. Look at how low gold and silver prices were after we, the United States, were involved in two wars, Afghanistan and Iraq. And the gold and silver barely did anything because there was really not much fear of a widening conflict. Whereas in this case, you're hearing more and more talk of World War III now than you ever have in history. And so that is part of what is leading the charge for geopolitical uncertainty affecting the markets. And we also have inflation here as well, too, that aside from that, take away the wars, inflation is something that we've not seen in 40 years the way that it is now. And I think that will still weigh fairly heavily on gold and silver, at least to some angle, because the strength of the dollar is only compared to other currencies. It doesn't mean that people have any much faith in it. Whereas gold and silver, they've proven themselves over the long course of time to be stable stores of value. And that's the key. Value transcends price in this case. And when you think about that, and you think about, how long the price action for these metals has been oscillating up and down based off the derivatives markets, some people feel that there is other larger factors and players involved that literally are suppressing the price. And so that's why we feel the value of these metals far exceeds that. But nonetheless, it is quite intriguing and a good thought exercise to see about what would happen to these metals if we had peace literally tomorrow. But nonetheless, I believe in the metal. I believe in gold and silver. In fact, I just got another gold piece here. This is a 50 pesos. It's 1.208, I believe, ounces of actual gold weight, 37 grams there. You can do the math there, 37.5 grams. And, it's just another area a way in order to protect your wealth is by holding on to gold. Sooner or later, I think these metals are going to, at the very least, pop up, and gold really kind of already is there. It's kind of near its high. It's all-time high in nominal dollars. Now, adjusted for inflation, we still have quite a ways to go for gold to reach its all-time high. Silver definitely is way behind there, but it does not necessarily mean that silver is going to get there anytime soon, because it's an industrial metal. And we know that war is something that is going to require silver as well too. But there's a lot of other things that silver could benefit much more so at times of peace and economic progress. Economic progress, I think, is going to be the biggest driver for silver's move in the upwards direction. Recession, war, inflation, those are things that are going to have a much stronger influence on gold. So there you have it. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below about gold and silver in times of peace. In fact, an amazing, massive move to peace that happens overnight. What would gold and silver do? To sum up, it would probably fall fairly dramatically for a brief period of time and then recover as economic realities set in. Remember, the markets operate based off of psychology first and foremost for day-to-day moves. But in the end, the entrenched nature of the markets and what is propping gold and silver up, I believe, is the fact that most of us out there see its value. And even if the price doesn't fully reflect that, well, it's close enough for government work. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.